Welcome to Glennville, a typical small southern town of a bygone era. Glennville is a railroad town. Trains come through every day. Glennville started as not much more than a crossroads, but now it's on the rise. They've got a very busy main street with lots of businesses. Businesses that just happen to be named after the people I care about most. My wife Becky has her own bakery, and my son appears nightly in the Palace Theater. He was going down the grade doing 90 miles an hour when the whistle broke into a scream. Blunt Smith Masonry Contractors is a tribute to my teenage years when I worked for my father and uncle. That's me shoveling sand into the mortar mixer. Next, named after my mother, Nell's Grocery and Deli on the corner of Main and Court Street. This next scene depicts how my mother and father met. Dad stole Mom's basketball, and she had to go up to the school where they were playing to retrieve it. It's that orange lot special, bringing my baby back. From the great Atlantic Ocean to the wide Pacific. Here we have my grandfather's upholstery shop and my Uncle Alvy's gas station. My sons, Don and Jason, are both musicians, so I thought it fitting they have their own music store. And no town is complete without a church. Here's Glennville Baptist Church, Pastor Brother Richard Miley. This is my brother-in-law Junior's tool company. You'll be hearing more about him later. Here's my great-grandfather T.T. Smith's blacksmith shop. And we'll have a jubilee down in Memphis, Tennessee, and we'll shout hallelujah all the way. Hello, my name is Glenn Blunt, and this is my model railroad. I call the city Glennville after myself. This is actually my second attempt at building a railroad layout. The first one was destroyed when the shelf above it tore loose from the wall, came crashing down, and busted everything to smithereens. But you may be wondering, how does one get from here to here? It begins with a little of this and a whole lot of this guy, my brother-in-law Emil Jr. You see, this guy can build anything that I can dream, describe, or draw. Without him, the project would not have been possible. I think it turned out pretty good, and I'd like to describe some of the details to you. I start with a tribute to the very first radio station that I can recall listening to here in Hattiesburg, Triple X. It was a top 40 station before there really was a top 40 station. I also wanted to pay tribute to the people who are most important to me. Here's my son Michael on a billboard I put on the side of the Palace Theater. And Pensacola Beach, well, that was a favorite vacation spot when we were all very young. As a tribute to my father, I put him on a lighted sign atop a hotel. And the cafe sign, well, one of my favorite memories is going downtown with Dad to the Coney Island Cafe. I wanted Glennville set in the 40s and 50s, a time period I'm particularly fond of. Scenes like this old paper stand on the sidewalk and the shoe shine stand, the old timers playing checkers, all these scenes really remind you of that era. Paying tribute to my good friend B.J. Barrett, I made him fire chief of Glennville. Here's the depot. You can see in front of the station the Southern Crescent, the train that came through Hattiesburg for many, many years, going from New York all the way to New Orleans. Here we have a look right down Main Street. Passing by is the Illinois Central Panama Limited, better known as the City of New Orleans. The City of New Orleans made its daily route from Chicago, Illinois to New Orleans and back. This freight train that we see passing now features one of Southern Railway's early diesels, pulling a variety of cars from various railroads across the country. I wanted my model railway layout to feature not just the town of Glennville, but to have an area that featured a more rural setting and included some industry. I named the lumber mill after my wife Becky's father, Emil Young. He worked in lumber mills most of his life. With a river running through this end of the layout, I thought it would be neat to feature some fishermen and some campers. In the rail yard, I have two trains that feature locomotives. On the left, we have the Nickel Plate Road, a 842, and on the right, a Southern 210-2. And that was the whistle of the Nickel Plate Road. My brother Paul is absolutely crazy about airplanes, so my layout had to include one. Here's another look at the rail yard with Glennville in the background. Kramer Freight Lines is named after my dear friend Dennis Kramer. In case you're wondering what I did with all those broken train cars after the shelf came crashing down, here's one. It's a caboose, and I used it to make a hobo camp. As you can see, it has a lighted fire, and a group of hobos gathered round planning their next adventure. In this next scene, a couple of teenagers have pulled off to what they think is a deserted area for a little necking, only to be caught by the lumber mill security guard. Glennville has a lot of animated billboards. Hey, if it blinks, flashes, or changes colors, that's right up my alley. You would not believe the wiring that goes into building a model railroad. Here is the command center where I digitally control each train and control each turnout and switch. And lastly, a look at Glennville after dark. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. But the most important thing I want to do before I end is to thank Junior. This project I could not have done without him, and it's been a very fun and bonding experience. I highly recommend it.